they've made a living out of terrifying their audiences. Now, host Nancy Glass takes you inside their unexpectedly restful retreats, where fabulous interior design lurks around every corner.
I prefer sort of just that open feeling.
Tour the incredible homes of celebrities who put the scare in scary flicks.
This is the house that Freddie built in the way.
Don't miss HGTV's Halloween Homes. Friday night at 8, 7 Central Law.
Hello, I'm Dean DePiro. As a prosecutor and legislator, I've been tough on crime. Just check the record. In Columbus, I'll be even tougher on anyone.
You're watching HGTV Daytime, right here on Home and Garden Television.
Hi, I'm Ron Hazelton, the house doctor. Well, welcome once again to The House Doctor, the show that teaches you how to fix up your home or apartment. Now, in today's program, I'm going to install sprinkler heads and a manifold, and we'll learn the tricks to keeping unwanted animals out of the garden. But first, if you've ever wanted to brighten a room with track lighting, let me show you just how easy it is to install. You know, one of the projects that we get a lot of requests for is the installation of track lighting. Now, track lighting is a very interesting source of light. It can, for example, be used to highlight art by flooding a wall. Or you can create a pool of light to highlight something such as a floor plant. Or it can even be used to provide supplemental lighting for a kitchen such as this. Now, installing track lighting couldn't be easier. Now, the heart and soul of a track lighting system is the track itself. It's a piece of extruded aluminum with some electrical conductors on either side here. Now, these come in 2, 4, and 8-foot lengths, and they can be hooked together. What we're going to do today is take down this one source overhead light fixture right here, which is controlled by a switch over on this wall, and we're going to replace it with this track. And what we're going to do now is, instead of having just one source of light, we're going to have several to highlight different portions of the room. So let's start by taking down this existing fixture here. Now we'll pull these wires out. What we should find up here is a black wire and a white wire attached with a couple of wire nuts. There we go. There's the black wire. Now, obviously, I've turned off the switch, and I would recommend when you do this also to either pull the fuse or flip the circuit breaker so that you're absolutely sure there's no power here. Now, we've got that old fixture off. This is a mounting bracket that comes with the installation kit. What we're going to do is slip this right over the black and white wires and the grounding wire, press it up to the box here, and then screw it in place using a couple of screws that were provided. Next, I want to place the track temporarily between these two tabs in this mounting bracket. Just hold it in position here. Okay, now I've adjusted it left to right. I've got it just about where I want it. And now I'll just mark the location of the holes with this pen on the ceiling. Now, this track is going to be held to the ceiling with something called a toggle bolt. It's actually a bolt with a kind of a butterfly nut on the end here. Now, when drilling the holes for this, we want to make sure that our drill bit is large enough so that the toggle will fit through the hole in its folded position. Well, there's our mark. We've got a sheetrock ceiling here. Got our drill bit. Let's go ahead and drill through. Well, with our holes drilled and our toggle bolts in place, let's just go ahead now and pinch the wings on that toggle bolt, push it through the ceiling, and let it pop out behind. That's good. Okay, there's that one. Now, to tighten these toggles, just pull down on the track, put a little pressure on it, and turn the head with the screwdriver. That'll keep the toggle itself from spinning on the back side of the sheetrock. Now, on this mounting plate, there are a couple of small screws. We want to tighten those up so that the end of the screw contacts the side of the track here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this track comes in a variety of lengths. Now, I've got an 8-foot section up here, and I want to extend it by 2 feet so that I end up with 10 feet total. And the way to do that is with a connector, such as this. And this simply plugs into the end of this track, like that. And then the second section of track just slips over the other end and slides into place. Now, this is what's known as a power feed. This is going to actually supply the power from the box here to the track. And to hook this up, we first of all just assemble it to the wires, black wire to black wire, and white to white, using wire nuts. We'll also want to connect the ground wire. Well, our wires are hooked up. Now we're going to install this power feed into the track. There's a locking tab right here on the back side. I'm going to push that, insert this into the track, turn it 90 degrees until it snaps. Okay? And now we've energized the track. Now with these wire connections made, we'll just fold the wires back out of the way and then install this plastic cover, which gets held in place with a couple of screws. Well, our track's in place here, so let's go ahead and install our fixtures. Now these go in the same way as our power feed did over here. That is, they just slip up into the track, pull this tab down and twist it into position. Now these fixtures come in a wide variety of styles, sizes, and prices. Okay, the track's up, the fixtures are in. Let's flip the switch on and take a look at the results here. Okay, very nice. Now the painting over here, you notice when that light came up how those mountains just glowed because of the light that was reflected off that painting? And over here, the light's coming down on top of this plant, giving it kind of an iridescent look. Now back here on the kitchen, what we've done is we've set the lights off to the side, over here and over here. The reason we've done that is that one problem with track lighting is if you put it behind your back, at a kitchen counter like this, you create a lot of shadow on the work area. By putting the lights off to the side like so and having them cross, we've eliminated most of that shadow. Later in the show, learn the secrets to keeping animals out of your garden. And next, installing sprinkler heads.
Get a head start on the holidays with Carol Duvall's Holiday Workshop live, beginning Monday at 2 on HGTV Daytime.
It's a faucet.
It's a filter.
It's a faucet.
It's a filter.
Introducing the faucet with the water filter built right in. Faucet by Price Pfister. Filter by Teledyne Waterpick. It reduces chlorine and odor, so all that's left is great taste for a fraction of the cost of bottled water.
It's a faucet.
It's a filter.
It's both. The filter faucet from Price Pfister.
Here's a quick look behind the scenes of HGTV's new fast-action, fast-paced show, The Fix.
We are rolling, and action!
Remember that project that you did that you thought was going to be so tough?
Well, it turned out to be very easy.
And how good you felt?
You definitely have the power to do this.
Looks fantastic. Yes!
We're dealing with a lot of power here.
The ideas.
The solutions.
The tools. The Fix.
9 Eastern on HGTV weekend mornings.
Well, we're somewhat in the middle of a lawn sprinkler installation project right here. We've dug our ditches and we're beginning to lay out our pipe. What I want to focus on in this segment is how to construct a distribution manifold. Now, a sprinkler system like this is usually divided up into several zones. In this lawn, we're going to have one zone that'll control the sprinklers for the lawn itself, the grass, and a second set of sprinklers that'll be for the plantings around the perimeter right here. And each of those zones is turned on and off or controlled by an electric valve like the one I'm holding in my hand here. And a series or assemblage of these valves is what's called a manifold. And I want to show you how to make that, and I want to show you how to attach it to an existing water supply like this spigot right here, and then give you a couple of tips on how to easily set the sprinkler heads at the proper depth. Now, before you make the final design decisions on your sprinkler system, you really have to know if you've got enough water to supply that system, because each head takes a certain amount. So let me show you a simple way to make that measurement. This is just a plastic gate valve that we picked up at the hardware store. And onto this, we're screwing a pressure gauge, which is designed to go right onto a hose bib. And then we'll screw this entire assembly onto our spigot here. Now what we want to actually measure here is the volume or flow rate in gallons per minute. So first of all, we're going to turn our water on, and you'll see that the pressure goes up to about 100 pounds right here. We're going to measure this flow, though. It's something less than that, actually down about 30 pounds. So we'll start by opening this gate right here very slowly. And as we do that, you'll see the pressure will start to drop down. Okay, as soon as it hits 30 pounds, now I'm going to start timing this. I want to see how long it takes to fill this 5-gallon bucket. Well, it took 50 seconds to fill this 5-gallon bucket at 30 pounds of pressure. Now, here's how you use those numbers to make your measurement. 5 gallons is the amount of water that we collected, a 5-gallon bucket right here, times 60 divided by the number of seconds it took to fill that bucket at 30 pounds per square inch. That gives us 300 divided by 50, or 6. That means the amount of water coming out of this faucet right here is 6 gallons per minute. Now, this is important when you're designing your system because the total demand of the system can't exceed 6 gallons per minute. Now, let's get started here by tapping into our existing water line for our new supply. I'm going to take this existing spigot off, and in place of this connector right here, I'm going to put on a T connector. This is half-inch galvanized pipe. It's the existing pipe, so we're going to continue to use that. Now I'm putting some pipe thread sealant on the threads here. We want to be sure to get this all the way around. Okay, that's good. And then we can screw on this T fitting. Oops, there we go. There. Now, in this end of the T, I've gone ahead and reinstalled our faucet. In this side of the T, I put in a short 2.5-inch nipple right here. And on the end of that, I'm going to install an inline valve. Now, this is so that we can turn the water supply to the irrigation system off, either during cold weather or if we want to do any maintenance or repair work on the irrigation system. Now, I've put a short nipple on the downhill side of the shutoff valve. And here's where we're going to make our conversion to our PVC or plastic pipe that we'll be using from here on out. This is an adapter. I'm going to be screwing this onto that nipple. And you notice that I put some Teflon tape on here. Anytime we're screwing a plastic fitting to a steel fitting, we want to make sure that it is done with the Teflon tape to seal the threads. Now, the sprinkler system for this backyard that we're creating here actually has 2 zones, as I said earlier, one for the lawn and one for the plantings. So now we have to split this stream of water into 2 streams, each of which will be controlled by an electric valve. And that whole assembly, those valves and the pipes to do that, is called a manifold. So let's go over here in the patio and start putting that together. Well, I've just finished sort of dry fitting all of the components for our manifold. Now, actually, the manifold is made up of pieces of PVC Schedule 40 pipe like this and fittings. And I haven't glued these yet. I'll show you how to do that in a second. We'll just put them together just to see how everything's going to work out here. Yeah, that's about the last of it right there. Now, let me just show you what we've got here. The water is going to come in this pipe right here. It'll flow down this base pipe up this way to each valve. Now, this is the electrically actuated valve. This will eventually be hooked up to a timer. And then it goes through this anti-siphon valve. The purpose of this valve is to keep water from the irrigation system from backflowing into the household water system in the event the water pressure is off and this valve were to malfunction. The water will come out of here and then flow to each of the 2 zones, one for the lawn and one for the plantings. Now, I mentioned that this is Schedule 40 pipe. It's a little bit heavier. You can see right here, the wall of this pipe is a little bit thicker or heavier than the PVC pipe that we're going to be using for the actual irrigation system. That's because a lot of this, everything up to this valve right here, is under constant water pressure, and it needs that extra wall thickness. Now, you can cut PVC pipe with a hacksaw, but if you're going to do a lot of cutting, and you will with an irrigation system, it's probably worth it to buy one of these PVC pipe cutters. It's actually a shear, and by squeezing the handle, this cutting blade just sort of comes down a little bit at a time until it gives you a nice clean cut, and it doesn't produce any shavings or burrs like a saw would. Now, to attach the pipe to the fittings, you'll need a PVC primer and a PVC cement. And the general rule is start with a primer, go twice around the pipe, lay that down for a second, and then twice around the fitting, and then twice around the pipe again. Next, move to the cement, sort of take off some of the excess on the can here. Begin by making 2 trips around the pipe, 2 around the fitting, and 2 more around the pipe. And then push the 2 together, the pipe and the fitting, all the way home. Turn them about 1/4 to 1/8 of a turn and hold them. They will tend to kind of separate for just a few seconds because everything is so soft in there. But that is all it takes to make this joint. And actually what's happening here is those chemicals are softening or dissolving the plastic and welding or fusing them together. Well, one more thing I want to show you before we put the manifold in position, and that is that I've put a 6-inch nipple right here and a cap on the end. That'll make it a lot easier to add another valve if we ever want to sometime in the future. Okay, let's set this down. I've dug quite a bit of dirt out here, and I'm going to make just a test connection to our water supply right here. Okay, good. All right, that's just about how she's going to go. Now, normally I might have brought this pipe, in fact, I would have brought this pipe straight down and across this way, but I've got a great big tree root right here, so I had to kind of make this little turn around it. Now, one important thing as far as the depth of this manifold, the main supply line, as well as these supply lines that are going out to the sprinkler system, should be about 12 inches below the soil level. Well, now we're all set to hook up the actual supply lines to the manifold that we just put together here. I put the cleaner around. We'll put a little cement on that pipe and a little cement up in the fitting and another round of cement on the pipe. And I'm going to slip this right into that elbow and hold it. Now, the pipe that I'm gripping on right now, this is going to supply the water to the lawn. This other pipe over here to the shrubbery around the edge. And each one of those, of course, is controlled by its own automatic valve. Now, this is the timer that's going to be controlling the sprinkler system. Inside, there are a row of terminals down here in the bottom, and each of these valves has a wire that will be attached to one of those terminals. Now, this timer will tell each zone when to turn on and how long to run. Now, you notice that we've got these valves quite a ways off the ground. That's because for this anti-siphon valve right here to work properly, it has to be 8 inches above the highest sprinkler head. Well, this lot sort of slopes uphill as it goes to the back, and the valve needs to be at this height in order to comply with that requirement. Installing these sprinkler heads is merely a matter of putting a T or an L in the supply line right here, and then burying it below the surface. Now, there's one very important point to consider, though, and that is that the top of the sprinkler head should be at the level of the dirt, that is, at the base of the grass. Because if it's too high, then, of course, you run the risk of hitting it with a lawnmower, and if it's too low, it interferes with the spray pattern. Now, there are a couple of ways you can accomplish this. As you can see right here, this riser would be too long. So we either have to go buy ourselves a shorter riser, or we could use something like this. This is a cutaway riser, and it's designed to be cut off to whatever length is needed at any of these joints right here. You see each one of them is threaded separately, and by cutting it off at the right height and reattaching the sprinkler head, reattaching the sprinkler head here, we'd get it down closer to where it's supposed to be. A second way to get this sprinkler head at just the right height is to use this sort of articulated arm. You see, it doesn't matter at what height the pipe is, this will move up and down and adjust the top of the sprinkler head precisely where you want it. And here's even a third way to get this sprinkler head at just the right height. It uses a flexible hose to go from the supply line to the sprinkler head, and by laying that pipe anywhere you want to, you can still get that head at just the right level. Well, there you go. If there's a lawn sprinkler system coming up in your future, well, now you've got some ideas on how to construct a manifold and how to install those sprinkler heads. Next, how to keep unwanted animals from invading your house and garden.
If children could vote, they'd choose Judge Richard Lilly. Judge Lilly has prosecuted more cases on behalf of abused children than any attorney in America. Vote for the children. Vote for their judge. Retain Judge Richard Lilly. In this demanding world of justice, we need to re-elect Judge Pat Kelly. Judge Pat Kelly sets the standards on the bench, in the courtroom. That's why Judge Pat Kelly's re-election is so widely recommended. Keep a good judge. Re-elect Judge Pat Kelly.
There is no justice when victims are treated like criminals. Judge Boyko.
I'm Judge Boyko. In my court, I never forget the victims, their families, or you.
Boyko for justice. Boyko for judge.
Judge Kathleen Craig.
In my experience, when the law is applied with common sense, you'll get justice. If you agree, I'm your judge.
Keep common sense in Common Pleas Court. Keep Judge Craig.
Spectracide grass and weed killer works in 24 hours. The other brand takes a little longer. Actually, a lot longer. Spectracide works in hours, not days. That's why weeds can't hide from Spectracide.
To you, it's your castle. To millions of termites, it's the all-you-can-eat buffet. But now there's new Terminate from Spectracide. Do-it-yourself termite protection for a fraction of the cost of professionals. Before it's too late, terminate.
The new Prestige Storm Door from Larson. Make a beautiful first impression. From granules as fine as sand come colors, designs, patterns, and ultimately a floor of uncommon distinction. Solarian by Armstrong. Available in timelessly traditional and strikingly contemporary designs. There's a Solarian floor for every home, every lifestyle. Uniquely made for the way you live today. Solarian by Armstrong.
Available at Lowe's and other fine home improvement centers nationwide.
Nobody does it like you, the way that you do. Nobody's got the power to please me.
Hoover's exclusive 2-tank system lets you pick up wet in one tank, then switch to a separate tank to pick up dry. So there's no mess emptying, wet or dry.
Nobody does it like you, Hoover. Nobody does it like you.
If you're having a problem keeping deer, pets, or wild animals out of your yard, here's Rich Avanzino from the SPCA with some suggestions that you're going to find very helpful.
If you live in an area where there's a lot of wildlife and they're coming into your backyard or maybe even into your home, and you want to have them pack up their bags and go somewhere else, there's actually a variety of different household remedies that are humane that can get your animals to go elsewhere. You know, if you have some planters or if you have some roses or if you have a variety of different bushes and you're trying to keep them protected from different type of critters, particularly things like raccoons, not a bad solution is something that's very aromatic, like ammonia here. If you take ammonia, you sprinkle it on a rag, you put it into a platter, you put it close up to the flowers that you're trying to protect. In most cases, the animals are going to smell this stuff, they don't like it, they're going to go somewhere else. Also, if you live in an orchard where you have these beautiful trees and they have a lot of delicious delectables that the deer like to come and sample, one of the ways to keep those deer away is you take a stocking, you fill it full of human hair that you'd get at a barber shop, and then you sort of tie it around the tree. You put it on a branch so that they're going to pick up the scent of the human being, which is a potential predator. And in most cases, the deer are going to stay away. You know, Irish Spring soap on a stick planted next to where you would have a variety of different flowers is another technique used to try to keep deer out of your garden area. Chicken wire is another technique to try to keep the deer away from certain areas of the yard. You lay this on the ground, you get it about 6 feet wide. The deer walk onto this, their hooves come in contact with the wire. It's extremely uncomfortable. Deer will normally stay away when you're putting chicken wire around a certain kind of an area. Wildlife, in many cases, try to take up residence in our homes. They try to get on a roof, get into the attics, and make a nest. One of the best ways to keep them from nesting in the attic is to find these branches that overhang the house, cut them down with a saw so they're not going to be able to get up on the roof surface. Animals also love to get in that crawl space under the house. This is because that ductwork and those cozy little places make wonderful nesting areas. If you're trying to get rid of them in that location, a great solution is a boom box. You play loud, obnoxious music that they don't like. You probably don't like it either, but it'll get them to pack up their bags and get the heck out of there. Another solution is to try a trouble light. Put this in the area. They're nocturnal animals. They normally don't like to have the light shining on them all the time. Under no circumstances should you ever touch a wild creature. If they're injured or if they seem tame, they're probably sick. They're dangerous to you. You could be dangerous to them. Leave them alone. Pet food. You know, it's one of the primary reasons why a lot of wildlife visit us in our backyards and at our homes. If you are going to feed your animal out of doors, at night, make sure you bring it inside because the wildlife aren't going to be attracted to come and visit you as frequently. Also, if you do have garbage to get rid of, make sure you put it in a container like this. It's great if you have one that has a secure lid, but it's even better if you have a bungee cord that can secure the lid in such a fashion that when the raccoon tries to open it, he's not going to be able to get at it. If you can keep the inducements away from the animals so that they're not going to come and visit you at your home, you'll be able to enjoy the wildlife in the out of doors. That's the best relationship of all, and if you follow these kinds of tips, I think you're going to be successful.
You know, when we hear about the importance of lubricating our power tools, we usually think about putting oil or grease on the bearings, but it's also important to lubricate blades and bits. And here's a product that's designed specifically for that. It's made by Sandaro, and it's called Top Coat. Now, why do you need to lubricate a cutting blade or a bit? Well, there are probably 2 or 3 reasons. First of all, it reduces the friction and enables that blade or bit to cut more quickly. It lowers the heat, keeping the temper or sharpness in the blade, and especially on saw blades, it prevents buildup of pitch on the blade, which can cause it to bind even further. Now, it's not just saws that you can use this material on. It's also great for things like drill bits or jigsaw blades or even router bits. Now, this dry-type spray lubricant is not reserved just for power tools. It also works well on hand saws or hack saws. In fact, even things like pruning saws. Sandaro makes a related product called Top Coat. Now, this was originally developed to put on the tops of table saws to keep the wood sliding more smoothly across them, reducing the friction. But it can also be used on such things as the base plate for a circular saw and on router plates. Now, both of these lubricants are non-oily. They dry almost immediately. So, if you want to increase the cutting efficiency of your tools and make them slide more easily, well, you might want to try one of these products.
For my everyday paint colors and combinations, I didn't just pick the colors. I picked the colors that go with the colors you pick, and they're available at Sears and Kmart.
It's no fun to itch. That's why Owens Corning created Miraflex Insulation. It's made with a revolutionary fiber that's virtually itch-free. So it not only saves on fuel bills, it's more comfortable to handle and install. Use Miraflex Insulation because life is better when you don't itch. For a free sample of Miraflex fiber, call 1-800-GET-PINK.
Imagine more HGTV building and remodeling than you ever thought possible at HGTV.com. More ideas, more information, and more inspiration when you explore our new Home and Garden Village. It's all at HGTV.com.
Bet you're going to freeze some for later.
Bet not. My freezer is tiny.
Well, use your Sears card and get a bigger one. Right now, get 0% finance charge till May 99 on all appliances and electronics over $399.
So I can freeze my payments.
If you hurry, ends Wednesday.
Spreads like buttercream, covers like royal icing. My everyday paint colors and combinations make decorating a piece of cake, and they're available at Sears and at Kmart.
Have you ever found yourself in the dark trying to fix something? Then you know how hard it is to do some jobs without light in the right place. That's why you need the Craftsman Driver Light, available only from Sears. The Driver Light is a screwdriver that focuses a beam of light right where you need it. It allows you to see what you're doing, even in tight, dark spaces. The Driver Light has a magnetic shaft, which holds the bits firmly in place, and comes with 2 sizes of slotted bits, 2 Phillips bits, and 5 socket bits, all in a convenient storage case. At $19.99, it's a great value and makes a terrific gift. There are so many jobs you'll want to use the Driver Light for, like under-the-hood car repairs, computers, and home electronics, or whenever there's no good light source available. The Driver Light is made in America, and like other Craftsman hand tools, is guaranteed forever. Light up your dark jobs with the Craftsman Driver Light. Order a Driver Light today.
Call 1-800-614-2121 to order your Craftsman Driver Light for only $19.99 plus shipping and handling. Call now.
Well, here's a tip to make that stubborn screw go in more easily, especially if you're trying to put it in hardwood. Lubricate the threads using a bar of soap, a candle, even a birthday candle will do if that's all you've got around the house. Simply rub the candle or the soap over the threads like this, and the job will go much more easily. And you'll also reduce the possibility of splitting the wood or stripping the head of the screw out. Now, please join me next time for more tips and suggestions to make your next home improvement project just a little bit easier. Right now, it's time for you to roll up your sleeves, get out there and tackle some of those jobs that you may have been putting off. See you next time.
Stop by This Old House Classics and learn how to build a curved concrete walkway. This one also happens to be wheelchair accessible for our bed and breakfast conversion project tonight at 7 Eastern here on HGTV.